Greetings of peace and welcome to the latest edition of the Black Diaspora News podcast. Tonight, we've got an important topic to discuss that's making headlines all around the world. The African Union has been granted a seat at the prestigious G-20 table. But is this move symbolic? Or does it hold true substance? As always, we're going to base our coverage tonight and our conversation on the number one independent news outlet in the world, the Final Call newspaper. So stay tuned for that discussion.
Welcome to our weekly Black Diaspora News podcast. Let's begin.
Greetings. Now, to cover the news, this will be from our latest edition of the Final Call newspaper. If you did not get your copy of this great edition with the cover, the wheel, and the warning, please get yourself a copy as soon as possible. Now, let's get right into the coverage tonight. What we're going to be discussing is an article from the, again, Final Call newspaper dealing with the inclusion of Africa, the African Union, into the G20 summit at the latest G20 summit. So at the recent G20 summit in Delhi, leaders from the world's leading industrial and developing nations came together under the theme, One Earth, One Family, One Future. The summit addressed critical global issues like climate change, gender equality, and terrorism. And one of the significant outcomes of the African Union's admission was the African Union's admission as a permanent member, transforming the G20 into now the G21. The declaration read, "We welcome the African Union as a permanent member of the G20 and strongly believe that inclusion of the African Union into the G20 will significantly contribute to addressing the global challenges of our time." However, Cedric Mohammed, a member of the AU's Congress of African Economists and the Nation of Islam research team, raises thought-provoking questions. He reminds us of two phrases by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, one being, "Politics without economics is symbol without substance." And he who gives you the diameter of your knowledge prescribes the circumference of your activity. Cedric Mohammed suggests that while there is a positive symbolism in this move, we must scrutinize its motives and operational aspects. Questions arise. Does Africa gain true authority and autonomy within the G20? Does this integration promote cooperation or hinder it among the global South nations? Well, according to Dr. Wilmer Leon, he believes that Africa's changing mentality, growing economic strength, and resistance to Western dictates provide an opportunity for Africa. He sees the African Union joining the G20 from a position of greater strength than in the past. However, skeptics, as Brother Cedric Mohammed, question whether the G20 is the right space for Africa to gain control and reverse past exploitation. Skeptics also argue that true cooperation, harmony, and unity should happen independently from Western influence. However, supporters of the move argue that the AU, representing a continent with a growing influence and a collective GDP of $3 trillion, can bring value to the G20. But underlying concerns about the pact's realness and the persistent cries for African acceptance lingers. These concerns bring us back to the words of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who emphasized the importance of African unity. He advocated for a United States of Africa and warned against relying on others to solve Africa's problems. Minister Farrakhan once said, "Your problem is not America, Israel, or Britain. Your problem is your disunity and your dependence on others to do for you what you could do for yourself." So, as we wrap up our post-news recap of this Final Call article, which we highly encourage you to read for yourself by clicking on the link below and provided in the description on Facebook Live and YouTube, we're left with some important questions that we want to address with our panel. So stay tuned. We're going to go into a short commercial break, and we'll be right back for the panel discussion.
There is a need in our community for a universal change. And it has to start with the man. Being a man of God means being a man possessed of the knowledge, the spirit, and the power of God, anointed to do his will. To build a people, you first must make man. Every man, no matter what his color, no matter what his race, every man, in order to be a man, must be a man of God, or he's not a man at all. Let us make man.
All right. So I'm joined here this week once again with my great brother and colleague from the Muhammad Study Group of Montreal, Brother Abdul Sabir Muhammad. And this week, Brother Gabriel X was not able to make it, but inshallah, God willing, he will be back next week, same time, same channel. And also to our live audience, once again this week, we're having some issues, it seems, with our Facebook Live. And so it seems that the connection has had some issues. Evidently, there may be someone who does not wish for us to discuss whatever it is we are going to be discussing today, but that's not going to stop us. So what I would say to those who are listening, please take the link and share it. Go into the event page and actually share the link that you're streaming this from so that others can tune in. So you take the link, you share it, and this will allow other people to tune in and see it on your news feed. And that way more people can have access to this discussion, which is very important, dealing with this integration of the African Union in the EU. So with no further ado, let me start with the first question, Brother Abdul Sabir, for which I would love to have your thoughts. So in your view, and based on what we learned from the Final Call News article, is the African Union's inclusion in the G20 a move toward empowerment, or is it entrapment? Would love to hear your thoughts.
Yes, sir, brother. Thank you so much. And Bismillah Rahman Rahim. I would like to thank first the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan for publishing the Final Call newspaper, the greatest newspaper in the world, and the writers, the general manager, and all of the FOIs and MGTs who try their best to get the word out, the truth out worldwide to all of the members of the human family. So I'm honored to be here to represent and to share whatever little that I would like to offer to the audience on the article. It was a wonderful article put together by Brother Cedric, and he highlighted some critical things that we need to reflect on. And as I was reading the article and contemplating on the question that you asked, it seemed a little bit suspicious because it seems to be, in my judgment, it could be taking away offering the African Union membership into the G20. I think it's taking away their power. This is in my opinion. And let me explain, because last month, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, the BRICS members, came together and to make a new strategy, a new way of dealing with business, with all of the different infrastructures that they would need, a new monetary system. They're even talking about their own Olympics, where to remove all of the politics and from what the neo-colonizers have a tendency to do. They just have an extension of their global hegemony, and somehow they use the monetary system to pull you back in line and to get you under their control. So Brother Cedric, he raised a very good point, and words of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, in which he says, politics without economics is symbol without substance. And when you look at the G20, they're talking about, in the article, 75% of global trade, which make up 85% of the GDP. Now, what exactly are they trading? What products are they producing? Where do they get the raw material from to produce those products? Let me give you an example. Let's say France, who's part of the G20, is selling uranium at 200 euros, right? They're selling it, but they're getting it $2, but they're getting it from Niger at 80 cents. So they're robbing Niger, and they're robbing the other person that they're selling it to. Now, this is just a clear example of this kind of system that needs to be removed. And when you look at how the 78 United Nations Assembly that's going on right now, the theme is reform. That seems to be the theme of most of the leaders are talking about reform. Either you reform or we build our own. Reform or we build our own. That seems to be the theme at the United Nations 78 General Assembly meeting, and on the agenda, reparations. Reparations. And that's real. The president of South Africa, reparations. President of Kenya, reparations. Even Russia is talking about reparations. The prime minister and secretary of Barbados, reparations. Reparations for blacks. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, we in the diaspora have a critical role to play. And in his illuminating book, Torchlight for America, he says that the African Union must set aside territory for blacks in the diaspora, a territory set aside for us. And I believe if that is done, that should be on the top of the agenda of the African Union, and we should be at every table when we're dealing with business and selling of the raw material to the world, because we never gave up our sovereignty to the wealth that is under Mother Africa. So when you look at the G-20, Italy, Britain, Australia, Canada, France, Germany, 7 former colonizers, imperialist, and responsible for the transatlantic slave trade. And now they're imposing through the monetary system, the World Bank, economic slavery and debt, crippling Mother Africa, so Mother Africa can never develop infrastructure. They can never develop an economy to give jobs to their own, because the raw material is being exported out. And jobs are being created outside of Africa. So the sons and the daughters and the youth of Africa must migrate. And they're getting on ships, they're getting on boats, they're getting on buoys. They're trying to get away to make a better life, to try to make it to Europe, make it to America, make it to Canada. And this is a travesty. So I like the work that China is doing. I like the work that Russia is doing, and to set up their own monetary system. And it seems the African nation now, the leaders are now linking up with Saudi Arabia, countries like Turkey, Iran, India, Japan, and Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates, so is mentioned in the article. And I believe if Africa pursue this direction, the global South is destined to rise with freedom, justice, and equality. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, in his 1999, I believe, Savior's Day, he defined the word democracy.
Let me in real quick, beloved brother. So as you're going into the words of the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan, that is actually my second question that I'd like for you to go into. I'd like to get your thoughts. We read from the article in the final call from Brother Cedric Muhammad, whom, by the way, I did not know was part of the team of economists for the AU. That's really impressive. This is the brother that helps Minister Jabril and is in the research team for the NOI. But in your view there, brother, in light of Minister Farrakhan's warnings about African unity and self-reliance, do you believe that the African Union's inclusion in the G20 aligns with these principles, or is it a departure from it? Are we departing from these ideas of self-reliance and essentially depending on ourselves to do for self that Minister Farrakhan has been advocating with these African leaders? What are your thoughts on that, Brother Abdul Sabir?
Yes, sir, dear brother. I see it as a departure. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he said that many of our people, we don't sell out, we're drawn out. So there's a force that is observing the movements of the BRICS, because the BRIC group is now the 5 plus 6. And there's 40 countries also signing up. And it seems to be a wave that's coming now where the West is seeing that this unipolar system is being challenged. Something is beginning to run on a parallel track. They see it. And I believe what is happening in Niger and Burkina Faso and the former colonial countries in part of Africa there, colonized by France, their unity and how they're coming together, where they're making alliances almost like an African NATO. I don't even want to use the word NATO. African unity, where you touch one, you touch all, and we are united together. And I think this is the balance that they will give to ECOWAS. Because if ECOWAS is under the control, if you follow the beginning of the revolution in Niger and how the president, the gentleman there, his name escapes me, he's also in the African Union and president of Nigeria, and he was threatening to use ECOWAS to bring back the president of Niger. But if you look at the charges that the young leader there is charging the gentleman with, the former president with, they're charging him with treason and to allow a former military to establish a military post in Niger or any part of Africa. There should be no U.S. military bases. All of them should be removed from the African continent. And all of them should be removed from any sovereign nation should not have a military base of any European nation. They got to be removed. And the young people now is now rising up. And what we're hearing is a universal cry for justice, not for democracy. As before we went on the break, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan defined the word democracy from that Latin root democracy, where the root of that word is not the rule of God, but the rule of demons. So when you're talking about the rule of the demons, you're talking about a mathematical equation where the 10% is ruling over the 85%, and then there's over the 85% enslaving them and keeping them in that condition through the various means. And today they're using economics and money to control the African continent. So this pull that certain leaders have, or they're being drawn out, is based on these monetary policies where, give you an example, they will give an African country a loan and they will tell you, you don't need to pay back the loan until the next president comes in. So just think about that. You bought a brand new home and then you get to the home and the home has debt. So the next president is coming in, he's coming in already in debt. So what happened to all of the years where that president was ruling and they didn't pay the debt? It's a setup for failure. And this is exactly what has been going on. And now the world is waking up, and through social media, through the universal cry. And I believe Almighty God, Allah, has a hand in it, because the minister says, wherever the Lord set his foot, revolution will break out. And what we need is freedom, justice, and equality, and true liberation. We don't need any more demos gratis, the rule of the devil. We don't need that no more. We see how it controls the people, where a greedy 10% controls the 85%. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Brother Abdul Sabir. So very thoughtful comments. Now, you touched on a few things, and in the last question, we have a few minutes left. Uh, I wanted also to touch on, because a lot of things are happening in Africa right now, as you mentioned. There is a like an emergence, and it's strange how this inclusion of the G20 of the African Union in the G20 seems to coincide with, this shift in African leadership in becoming more bold. So, we're wondering if, okay, well, is this a move to contain them? But now my question to you, as we wrap up this discussion, what role do you think the changing global dynamics, including the rise of non-Western powers? We see India now as a rising power. We saw the Indian prime minister greeting the African leaders, and the G20 now includes them. But global power, non-Western global powers like China and Russia, what role will they play in shaping Africa's approach to international cooperation and its involvement in the G20 in from your perspective?
Thank you very much, brother. Beautiful question. I believe it's a transition that is taking place. And the transition, or the new paradigm shift, it's coming where the strategic minerals that as technology advance, the former colonial powers are looking at Mother Africa for these strategic minerals that they need. Even Elon Musk. And all of these contracts need to be renegotiated. So if the G20 pulls Africa in, as the article was mentioning, it's a form of integration. And when you integrate, integration is a hypocritical trick. So teaches the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And the people who are applying this integration, our people don't really know the nature of them, because they were taught a system of tricks and lies with the intent to master the original people. China has woken up. They're part of the G20, but they're moving on bricks. Russia has woken up. They're part of the G20, but they're moving on bricks. India has woken up. They're part of the G20, but so there's a parallel track that is being made at the same time, and those that have awakened know, I believe they know, what the G20 is actually trying to do by pulling them in. I don't know the contract, I don't know the perimeters, but like the article says, he who describes the diameter of your knowledge controls the circumference of your movement. So I don't know what the basis of being a G20 member, but the African Union needs to be very cautious, very, very cautious. And I believe, in my judgment, it's a waste of time to be a part of the G20. But if they want to have some kind of political clout, or they want to be in a particular place to determine certain policies, let it be. But I think they really need to focus on BRICS and focus on establishing an independent Mother Africa, and anything else that they want to do on top of that, that's fine. But don't get involved right now with the G20. It's not the time, because we're living in the time of the fall of the nations that have ruled in the last 6,000 years. So teaches the most honorable Elijah Muhammad and the honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and the new rulers will be the blacks, Native Americans, Pacific Islanders, Mexicans, Latinos. We're all going to establish a new world order, not the same old world order of colonialism and murder and colonizing, but a new world order is being established. So the African Union, in my judgment, they need to tread very carefully, because like the article says, they may be integrating, as the words of Dr. King, in a burning house. And the house is burning, as you see what's going on, all of them being pushed out of Mother Africa, and the people are uprising, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And the minister talked about the war of Armageddon, and I'm going to close on this point. He said that those nations came in with a bang, and they will go out with a bang. And the nations are ready and fixing up something for them. So Italy, Britain, America, Australia, Canada, France, Germany, it's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time. Either they submit to freedom, justice, and equality, or they will be totally removed, because there's a new world order that's coming, and Christ is at the head of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brother Abdul Sabir. Great discussion. Really enjoyed your words tonight. And even though Brother Gabriel was not on, you covered down very, very well. So praise be to Allah. So now we're wrapping up. We hope you enjoyed the discussion tonight and the coverage. We want to remind everyone, please, if you did not get your copy of the latest Final Call newspaper, please get yourself a copy. Read the article that we read tonight on the inclusion of Africa in the G-20, the African Union. All of that, all of the things that we discussed tonight are based on our analysis and reading of this great, magnificent newspaper published by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And as you can see, the cover this week, it's a heavy cover. The wheel and the warning, and I advise everyone to read it. It is an invaluable addition to your life, because news is information, and the right information is knowledge, and knowledge is power. So on that, thank you once again for joining us. Thank you, Brother Abdul Sabir. We hope to see all of you next Saturday, same time, same channel. And by the grace of God, this time we will be able to get the live feed. We're going to work out these little kinks, and Brother Gabriel will be back with us. And we look forward to seeing all of you. But in the meantime, please, if you had value from watching this video and listening to this conversation, please, please, please share it on social media, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to our Muhammad Study Group of Montreal page. And if you live in the greater Montreal area and you would like to get yourself a physical copy delivered to your home of the Final Call newspaper, you can contact us at gem02@gmail. That's GEMM02@gmail.com. And one of the FOI in the city of Montreal will come to your home and deliver this product and many others from the Final Call. So on that, we thank everyone for your presence tonight, and we leave you with this commercial. See you next week. Assalamu alaikum.